Hi, my name is Jack Rackham, and today I'm going to show you the family tree of Joe Biden. We'll be exploring his ancestry, the middle-class background that's so integral to his personal brand, as well as the truth behind allegations of corruption against himself and several others in his family. Beginning on his father's side, the Biden family traces its roots to a William Biden who immigrated to Maryland around the year 1820. He was English and most likely a Catholic, as the Biden family today is Catholic, and the state of Maryland has its roots as a safe haven for English Catholics going as far back as its inception. It was even named after King Charles I's Catholic wife, Mary. Moving on to Joe Biden's grandparents, we have Joseph Harry Biden, a salesman who worked for many years in the oil industry and was the first of a long line of Joseph Bidens spanning over 100 years. This Joseph married a woman named Mary Robinette, whose last name suggests French ancestry, and they had a son named Joseph Robinette Biden Sr. By some combination of his father's success and his own good fortune, Joe Biden Sr. was originally quite wealthy. The New York Times describes him in his 20s as sailing yachts, driving fast cars, and flying airplanes. Yet an often repeated facet of the Biden campaign in 2020 was Joe Biden Jr.'s middle-class upbringing. So what gives? Well, Joe Sr. married a woman named Jean Finnegan, an Irish woman living in Scranton, Pennsylvania. But after World War II, Scranton was in economic decline, and Joe Sr. had a difficult time finding a job. Eventually, he relocated his family to Wilmington, Delaware, where he found a job as a used car salesman, and he, his wife, and his 4 children shared a 2-bedroom apartment, sometimes sending the kids to live with their maternal grandparents. Now, there isn't too much to be said about Biden's maternal grandparents Ambrose and Geraldine Finnegan, but what we do know is that his great-grandfather Edward Blewett was a state senator in Pennsylvania, and it's a good thing he lived before television because with a name like Blewett, the possibilities for attack ads are endless. Returning to Joe Biden Jr., just like I said in our video about Donald Trump, you've probably heard enough about him and have your own opinion about him already, whether from his role as vice president in the Obama administration, from his presidential campaign, or from accusations made against him in recent months. Among his generation of the Biden family, however, are his 3 siblings. His sister Valerie is a Harvard grad, and she's been his campaign manager for pretty much his whole career up to and including the 2020 presidential campaign. She also leads a media consulting firm that's very prolific within the political sphere, having won several awards and with something like an 87% win rate for the politicians she's helped. Biden's brothers Frank and Jim are both businessmen. Frank is a Florida real estate developer, though he was recently involved in a chain of underperforming charter schools that came under investigation for fraud and gross staff misconduct. Jim is an investor in healthcare companies, some of which have come under recent scrutiny for mismanagement, though no criminal charges have been made against him personally. Moving to Joe Biden's immediate family, Jill Biden is actually his second marriage. He was married first to a woman named Neela Hunter, but in a tragic twist of fate, she and all her children were involved in a car crash, killing Neela and her 1-year-old daughter Naomi, and leaving Beau and Hunter severely injured. As you've likely heard, Beau Biden, also known as Joseph Robinette Biden III, died recently in 2015 of cancer at the age of 46. He was a major in the Delaware Army National Guard, as well as the 44th Attorney General of Delaware, and he had 2 children, 1 daughter and 1 son. That leaves Hunter as the last surviving child of Joe and Neela, and he's the member of the Biden family with perhaps the greatest amount of controversy surrounding him, and he's been married twice. First to Kathleen Buell, with whom he had 3 daughters, Naomi, Finnegan, and Maisie. They separated in 2015, the same year of his brother's death, and in 2016, before the divorce was finalized, he began dating his brother's widow, Hallie Oliver. Not long after, he was found to have had a child with a stripper from Washington, D.C., and about a month after the public learned he had split with Hallie, he had married again to South African filmmaker Melissa Cohen, with whom he recently had a son. Okay, enough about Hunter Biden. As I mentioned, Joe Biden's current wife is Jill Biden, born Jill Jacobs. She had previously been married to college football player Bill Stevenson. She has not one, but 2 master's degrees as well as a doctorate in education. She has spent much of her life working in education, even during her time as Second Lady, and worked with Michelle Obama to support U.S. military families. Finally, there's Jill and Joe's daughter, Ashley. She is a social justice activist who recently launched a conscious clothing brand called the Livelihood Collection, which seeks to combat income and racial inequality. She's married to Howard Krein, who is a plastic surgeon and otolaryngologist. Talk about a $10 word. And that wraps up our look at the family tree of Joe Biden. If you'd like to learn more about the family tree of Donald Trump, you can find a link to that video in just a moment. Thanks for watching.